Good afternoon, everybody. I am at our bee yard. As you can see evidenced behind me, we are looking at the entrances of 3 of our 8 colonies in this bee yard. And I just was driving over here, actually just to pick up a hive tool that we forgot. And I thought, it might be kind of fun to pull out the camera, jump on Facebook Live, and address a couple of interesting little facts. I got to thinking about it, and I thought, I don't know any facts that I want to address. And so it occurred to me to use this new chat AI program that, one of the new chat AI programs that everybody's all raving about and all that kind of stuff. So, and I've used it a couple of times myself on some other things. So I just asked it to provide me 15 interesting facts about honeybees in the state of Kentucky, specific to just the state of Kentucky. Now, obviously, some of these will overlap into other states as well, but these are supposed to be particularly true for the state of Kentucky. I have not reviewed this list. I thought it would be fun to review the list together. So I have no idea what we are about to read. Some of them may be like, oh wow, that's really interesting. Some of them may be boring. I don't know. We're about to get into it and find out, but I thought it might be kind of fun. So here's hoping I am not wrong. All right, so let's enjoy. The first fact: the honeybee, Apis mellifera, are the primary species of bees found in Kentucky. That's a fact. I don't know that that's a particularly interesting or exciting fact, but whatever. I didn't specify interesting. How is a computer going to determine what's interesting anyway? So instead, it is just a fact about bees in Kentucky. Let's see, what's the next one? Kentucky is home to numerous honeybee colonies which are kept by beekeepers for honey production and pollination services. Well, that appears to be true. Our bees are specifically for honey services. We do not, the pollination services, if it happens, it does so naturally. We do not ship our bees to farms, specifically, what's going on, Alexandra? But we don't ship our bees to other, to farms or anything like that in order to provide pollination services. Some beekeepers do. That's fine. That works for them. We do specifically honey production. Obviously also bee production, but our market is honey. All right, so let's see. What's the what's the third one? Honeybees are highly important for agriculture in Kentucky as they play a vital role in pollinating crops such as apples, blueberries, cucumbers, and squash. For those of you who may remember the last time I was on Facebook Live a week or two ago, I'm not very consistent with that, and I apologize for that. But a couple of weeks ago, we covered 15 plants, flowering plants that would look good in your garden. We covered both plants that would look good up in your front garden. I'm maybe in a little bit of a flight path for the bees. I don't think so. I was pretty careful in my selection, but they also may just be curious about me. No, anyway, she took off. I was going to show her to you. Kylie's with you. I would have thought she was in school today, but hey, Kylie, it's good to see you too. Anyway, so we talked about those plants. We talked about the flowering plants that you can put into your, decorative, that you can put up front in your flower bed for your neighbors to see. And we also talked about 10 of those, and we talked about 5 fruits and vegetables that you can place in your garden, for your backyard or whatnot. And so we covered apples and blueberries. Apparently I'm full of hot air because these bees seem really interested in my mouth. So, for those of you who have always accused me of being full of hot air, you may have been onto something. It still hurts. Anyway, so here are a couple others. We talked about apples and blueberries on that video, but then cucumbers and we talked about zucchini, which is a squash, but we talked about zucchini specifically, but there you go. So cucumbers and squash as well are a couple of items that you could place into your garden in the backyard that will provide you with an abundance of food for yourself, and will provide flowers that will be highly attractive to honeybees. All right, so let's see, that was number 3. Number 4, the Kentucky Department of Agriculture actively promotes beekeeping and offers various resources and programs to support beekeepers. That much I also know is a fact. One of the things that we utilize is the state apiarist comes out to our bee yard. She's been out, gosh, the last 3 or 4 years to inspect our hives with us. Super sweet lady. She's always really friendly, very helpful. She doesn't mind letting us know whether, how our bees are doing. It's her job to let us know how our bees are doing, but she lets us know when she's really impressed with what she sees, or at least on the spot, if she eyeballs anything that has, that gives her a concern, she'll let us know about that. In fact, I remember one year she came out and there was I can't remember what the concern was, but there was a concern, and she offered a suggestion on fixing it. I went to fixing it, and dang if she didn't just jump right on in there and help me out. So anyway, so that's one of the services that is provided by the state. It doesn't cost us a thing to have her come out and inspect. It does give us peace of mind to know that we have very strong and healthy hives. We get a report on that every time she completes it, so that's kind of cool. Let's see, number 5. The honey produced by Kentucky bees is known for its distinct flavors, which vary depending on the types of flowers the bees collect nectar from. So we've actually talked about that before. That little fact is actually true no matter where you're raising your honeybees, whether it's this state or a different state or a different country. In fact, there's one country, maybe a couple of countries in eastern countries, that the honey that is produced there actually is a bit of a hallucinogen. Girl? So I've heard. I've actually not partaken. I've never been to those countries anyway. But depending on where you're being, what flowers are being harvested, the flavors and apparently the psychedelic effects vary depending on where you are. So that's actually true across the board. Whatever state you're in, you're going to be able to produce different honeys. In fact, to keep it local, what are you doing? Our bees in this yard predominantly provide a clover honey. Not the ear. What are you doing? Now y'all notice I'm not swatting. For those of you who are... She's a little aggravated with me. For those of you who are always concerned about bees being around you and all that kind of stuff, I'm not doing any swatting. I am just... Hey Angie, you're about to be very anxious. I've got one that's particularly curious about my face. But I'm not doing any swatting. I'm just kind of interrupting where she's trying to get to. Eventually, she'll stop being so curious about me. Maybe. And then she'll go away. I do not want her landing in my ear. Yeah, I'm not freaking out yet, but it is kind of nerve-wracking from time to time. Anyway, so our bees in this yard produce a clover honey. We know that because we've actually taken samples of our honey from this yard and sent it on to be tested so that we can actually know. And we found that it was some 72% of that honey content was from the clover. So we talked about that actually in that previous Facebook Live where we talked about the poison ivy was actually in there as well. It was present in there as well at 13%. But because it's predominantly clover, then we have that clover honey. And then at our other bee yard, we are producing what we believe to be tulip poplar. We're actually going to go ahead and take a sample this year of that honey. We'll send it in and have it tested as well. And then we'll actually know for a fact what the predominant content of that honey is also. All right, so that little fact that we just read, number 5, that's a fact. Number 6. In Kentucky, honeybees face various challenges, including pests, diseases such as varroa mite and American foul brood, as well as pesticide exposure. That's actually very much true globally. That doesn't actually just pertain... Girl, boy, she's aggressive. Not really, she's not aggressive. That's the wrong choice of words. She's actually been very not aggressive. She's just very curious. But she really likes to be up in my face. So, but anyway, so globally, the closer to agricultural locations that you are, the more exposure to pesticides you're going to get. Actually, I say agricultural, but that's not really fair. This is more of a residential area. There's neighborhood all behind me and all that kind of stuff. You might be able to see roofs of houses over the grass behind me. And a lot of times in those residential areas, people are treating their yards with chemicals, treating their gardens with chemicals, pesticides, that sort of thing, to keep the bugs down and away from their house. That's not always such a bad thing, but it is in fact a high risk. We actually have used, you've seen us do this DFM applications to our bees, and that's a microbial that they, it's made of microbials that they already have in their digestive tracts, and that actually helps with their immune system building and all that other kind of stuff. We've also used a DFM plus P that is there intended to help reduce the pesticide exposure inside of the hive, because what they'll do is they'll go land on these flowers that have the pesticides on them, and bring that right back to the hive. You want to talk about a disconcerting little effect? Close your eyes to keep from being like, you know, having the bee land in your eye, and then when you open it, she's like there. It's fun. So anyway, so we do have to combat or contend with those pesticides. So if you are one of those folks who is real big into using pesticides in your gardens, maybe look into some more natural ways that you can deal with whatever it is that you've got in your garden that you're trying to be rid of. I don't want to use any kind of names of pesticides or anything like that, or weed control. A lot of them are very dangerous to the bees. They don't kill them on contact, which, as harsh as it sounds, would be better than what actually happens. So these bees, they get the pesticide on them. It does not kill them instantly, so they bring it back to the hive. That pesticide then gets into the wax. That wax now contains this pesticide that builds up and builds up and builds up, and eventually, over the course of time, it will reduce the strength of the hive. The bees themselves individually will get weaker. Their immune systems will take a hit, and ultimately it will in fact kill them through that buildup. Years ago, 15-ish years ago, some of you may remember, many of you actually may remember, the sudden colony collapse syndrome that just swept through the nation. Research actually found that that was a big deal. That was a thing. The pesticides was a huge contributor. Actually, I think that's what led companies that, such as the Super DFM, I think that's what led them to looking into these microbials, was trying to find a way to combat that swath of death that hit the bees. And so this DFM for us is actually really helpful, and we try to take other measures as well, but that's one of them that comes to mind. The varroa mite, honestly, it used to be believed that there were three organisms in the beehive, and that was going to be, bees. but now we've decided that we've agreed that there is a fourth, and that's going to be your Varroa. You may be lucky and currently don't have a Varroa count in your hives. That would be awesome. That's not to be counted on. What you can count, that's the exception to the rule. What you can count on is that your hive has Varroa mite. For those of you who don't know, Varroa mite it's a mite. It gets onto the bees, usually underneath. So we as beekeepers, when we're looking at the hive, we're not necessarily going to see Varroa mite. If we do see Varroa mite just with the naked eye, then we have a much larger infestation than we want. We don't want an infestation. Don't hear me say that, but it's a huge infestation. If you're seeing them with the naked eye, you've got a big problem, and so you need to start doing some heavy treatment. You definitely want to quarantine that hive if that's the only one that has the Varroa. And there are other steps that you can take. If you're a beekeeper, look into that stuff. You can send me a private message. We'll talk about it. But anyway, so Varroa mite's a big deal. So yeah, that's actually a thing. But it's not just Kentucky. That's nationwide. We had them in Georgia. We didn't have it 30 years ago, but we definitely have them now. University, let's see, that was Face Various Challenges. That was number 6. Number 7, the University of Kentucky, go Cats, College of Agriculture, Food and Environment conducts research on honeybees and provides valuable information to beekeepers in the state. Also true and very cool, we have actually had one of the researchers from the University of Kentucky out to our bee yard. I was able to aid in gathering samples from multiple hives in our yard. So that was a lot of fun for me because, you know, a scientist I am not, though I absolutely love that. And my dad and I both, and my nephew Garrett, who is very much involved in this production with us, we all love the fact that we are able to have, you know, colonies of bees that are able to provide data for the future health of bees statewide, and ultimately it will end up being not only nationwide but also globally, potentially globally anyway, because whatever we're able to find through that research, by we I mean someone else, because again, I'm not a scientist, but whatever they're able to find through their research, that's going to help us take better care of our girls. All right, so yeah, that's actually a really cool thing, and they've been in this bee yard. That's twice now, so that's just awesome. Okay, it turns out actually Tammy is doing a lot of that research too. So she was, the last time she was here this year doing inspections, Tammy, the state apiarist that I was mentioning, she's actually doing a lot of research as well, or a part of the program, one of the researchers, and so she was able to gather some samples with us, and that's, again, we're contributing to better bees across the world, across the globe. Number 8, Kentucky has a vibrant beekeeping community with numerous local beekeeping associations and clubs that provide education support to beekeepers. That is absolutely true. There are several associations. I see them on Facebook. I'm actually a member of them. Not an incredibly active member, but a member. Actually, one of the reasons that I'm not active, since I've got this moment to say something, is because some of y'all are kind of mean. I see some folks get in there and they ask some questions on some of these associations, and some of you beekeepers that have been at this for a little while, y'all are kind of smart alecks, and honestly, I'm not real comfortable associating with that, so I usually just kind of keep to myself. Others, though, I can see some of the frustration because, you know, we get some beekeepers in there, some folks who want to be beekeepers, and they go out and they get themselves some colonies, and they come in and they're asking questions like, okay, so I've got bees, now what? You have done that completely wrong. Go get books, go get online, talk to beekeepers, learn beekeeping, learn from a beekeeper. At some point, you will know enough about bees to get a hive of your own. And then you're still going to want a mentor that's going to be able to guide you through some of those decisions. So if you're getting bees and then getting into learning about bees, you have a very bad plan, and ultimately you are going to be the consequences of your bees. Like your bees are going to die because of you. So do better. And you can reach me. I'm a fairly nice guy, I like to think. And more than happy to talk to you about your bees or talk to you about what you need to do in order to be able to get into beekeeping. I've helped several folks actually, and my first piece of advice is always reading. I'll even provide you with titles that you can look up. They're easy to access, or to get from Amazon, that sort of thing. You may get them on Audible if you prefer to do your reading through listening. That's fine too. But there are plenty of options out there for you to be a smarter beekeeper. I will always encourage that. I'm not interested in like setting up field trips to my bee yard, but once or twice in a season, if you're interested in beekeeping, you want to come see the bees, let's talk. We can maybe make something happen from time to time. All right, beeswax, a natural substance produced by the honeybees. That's actually an interesting fact before I even finish the sentence. The beeswax, well, let me finish the sentence. They may actually be getting ready to tell us that. Hold on. Is used in, no, they're not. Okay, good. So the bees actually do, in fact, produce the wax on their own abdomens. The public library is in fact free. I don't know what bee books you'll find there. You will find a bunch of bee books. I'm fairly confident, but you are exactly right. The library is free. So is Google, for that matter. You can't really trust everything that you find on the internet, but still, it's better than just, ooh, I have bees, ready, fire, aim kind of thing. That's a bad plan. So yeah, you've got access to books all over the place. And again, I would love to provide you with some titles. If you are interested in becoming a beekeeper, I'd be more than happy to provide you some titles. If you're just interested in learning about bees, I will caution you, if you're just interested in learning about bees and you want to read some of these books, it ultimately potentially will lead you to becoming a beekeeper. So if you're not wanting to be a beekeeper, maybe just stick to watching my videos and other videos out there. Shoot, watch your mouth. YouTube is a great resource. I go to YouTube quite a bit. Cayman Reynolds he's a beekeeper. He's got a YouTube channel. He's a beekeeper out of Tennessee. And there's several other guys that I watch on YouTube. So that's a great one. And you get to see them working as well. So it's not just reading the book. You actually also get to watch them operate inside the house. So there's a lot of resources out there. Plenty of ways for you to not do it the dumbest way possible. I want to strongly encourage you, as politely and kindly as possible, do not do it the dumbest way possible. All right, so anyway, the bees produce the wax on their abdomen. They remove that wax, so it's that fresh wax. So if you've ever seen it, if you've ever bought the cut comb wax, that sort of thing, where they got the little bit of comb in the honey, everybody always wants that, which is great, but it's requires more resources right now than we're interested in doing, so we don't actually provide the cut comb yet. We will one day, but right now we don't. Anyway, that's always fresh wax. That actually came from the abdomen of the bee, and they mold that into the comb that they then store the honey in. Okay, so that's actually kind of cool. That's one of the facts. It may be on this list, but I don't know. Anyway, I just provided you a fact. Let's see what's in there. Beeswax, a natural substance produced by the honeybees, is used in various industries, including cosmetics, candle making, and furniture polish. I do know that my mom specifically, because she's very crafty, I am, not. I miss that gene. But she has done some furniture polish. She's done some candle making for sure. Cosmetics, bars of soap. I think of cosmetics, I think of makeup. I don't know if I'm right. For the record, I don't care if I'm right, but she has made soap. I've actually helped her with that. That's been a lot of fun. You use lye, which is, really dangerous, and so she doesn't let me around it very much because she knows, how clumsy I can be. But, safety precautions are used and all that kind of stuff. So she's done that. Beeswax, chapstick. Yeah, thank you, Angie, because that's exactly what I was trying to say, but I just couldn't think of the word. So we've done. She has done quite a bit of that stuff, some ointments and other things. So yeah, that's actually kind of cool, and it is a revenue stream if you go about it right. If you've got the time to put into it and all that kind of stuff. I've got actually one of the other real estate agents at my brokerage has purchased quite a bit of wax from me, and she got into some candle making, that sort of thing, which is kind of cool to be able to be just a supply portion of that, but still I got to be a part of it. She brought me one of her candles. Actually, it smelled really great, and I burnt it in my office for quite some time. So yeah, that's definitely a thing. Honeybees are known for their this is number 11. Honeybees are known for their complex social structure. A typical honeybee colony consists of a queen, drones, which is the males, and worker bees, which are the females. We've talked about that quite a bit in my videos. The males don't have stingers. They are larger in diameter. They actually, in some cases, can get pretty large, like almost bumblebee large. Not quite, but still, you know, it's definitely, you could see their size is huge compared to the worker bees. The queen is larger than the workers as well. She's usually longer, maybe a little bit wider, not as wide as a drone though, somewhere just over worker bee width, but not quite drone width. So they're definitely different sizes. They're easy to spot with the naked eye which one is which. What is really fascinating about that though is that the queen, the virgin queen specifically, when it's time for her to mate, she will fly from the colony. She will mate with up to 20 drones or more, actually. So I say up to. She'll mate with 20 drones or more. Sometimes less, depending on the particular season, but whatever. She'll try to mate with as many as she can in that particular mating flight. And she's done. Once that's done, she actually stores that sperm in a particular area inside of her abdomen, and then she chooses when she fertilizes those eggs as she's laying, right? An unfertilized egg, we've talked about this before, you've read it on the internet, you've heard it on documentaries if you've watched them. An unfertilized egg will hatch. It will hatch into a drone. Okay, so if you ever get into the genetics of beekeeping, then you'll find that a queen bee has, so you know, in the genetics of, you know, so if you do the Punnett squares and all that kind of stuff, a queen bee has a mother and a father, so the queen and a drone, because she's female. A drone has a mother and a grandfather, no dad there, so to provide those genetics. So when you're looking at the Y chromosome portion of the genetics, you're only looking for grandpa, you're not looking for dad. So I mean, this is fascinating stuff. But when you look in a colony of bees, you can see, okay, those are workers based on size, those are drones based on size, that is a queen based on size. You've been some of you have been with me on a Facebook Live or any of my videos where I'm, you know, talking and all, you know, about a frame that I'm holding in hand, and all of a sudden I'm reacting, like, oh look, there's the queen, and I point her out to you. With the workers, though all workers are similar in size, some may be bigger, smaller, depending, you can also notice 3 or 4 different color patterns in the colony, in the same colony. You'll notice several different color patterns on the workers. And that's a result of a colony is actually made up of a bunch of half-sisters. So that's pretty fascinating, because again, the queen, she'll go out, she mates 20 or more drones, because that sperm is what she's going to use for the rest of her life to produce her worker bee eggs that she then lays. So she's generally, though she can live up to about 5 years, she's generally only viable for about 2, maybe 3, but after that she's usually running, because you know she's laying 1,000 eggs a day. So at the height, you know, getting ready for the height of the season, and so she runs out of sperm. So you know she's only viable for about 2 of those 5 years. So she usually gets replaced around year 2. Anyway, so that's kind of cool. Let's get back into whatever number we were on. I think we're going to 12. Known for their complex social structure. Yeah, okay, so that's the social structure. Oh, so back to the social structure real quick. Honeybee Democracy is one of those books actually that is just awesome, and it delves into it. So I'm not gonna do that. in this video, but it delves into the democracy of the honeybees and how they select the direction that they're going to fly in order to harvest nectar or pollen, as well as how they select where they are going to go when they swarm. So when the queen and all of her flyers come out of the hive to swarm and leave, go somewhere else, the way that they select the location for their new home is very, very democratic and absolutely fascinating. So that's a good one to read. All right. Seeley, I believe, is the author for that one. Worker bees, this is number 12. Worker bees are responsible for tasks such as foraging for nectar, pollen, and building and maintaining the hive and caring for the brood. Yeah, that's true. Even folks who have watched, animated movies. Although I think that, I'm not going to say it, but I've had 1,000 people tell me I need to watch it, and I won't, because the central character of this particular animated bee-focused movie was a male, and it annoyed me, so I've not watched it, not gonna. Anyway, there are several movies out there, several stories out there that get it right, talking about the female bee is the one that does the gathering and the protecting of the hive. She's the only one with the stinger. The queen has a stinger. She's not going to sting you. She'll only sting another queen in most cases. There's always an exception to the rule. If you find a queen and you're doing stupid stuff, you might get stung. She didn't do it on purpose, but it might happen. So I'm not ruling that out, but she usually will only sting another queen. So the female is the one, she's doing the lion's share of the work. The male will consume resources, and he flies out to the mating areas and will mate with other queens. They're actually pretty cool. We're not going to get into it in this video, but it's really cool about how they instinctively will fly in different directions from the queen. She will actually go in, one way. They fly at different levels and all that other kind of stuff, which is really neat. It's nature's way of trying to avoid incest, and so it's actually kind of cool if you ever want to get into that. That's pretty awesome. But anyway, so that their democracy is kind of cool. And then actually we weren't talking about democracy on this one. We were talking about foraging and the nectar and the pollen. So yeah, the females are doing all of that. I think there's some evidence, we talked about it in one of the previous videos, there's some evidence that the drones will help inside of the hive as far as regulating temperature and keeping the draft going. They'll fan their wings, but that's about it. That doesn't require them to get up and go anywhere. Number 13. So we're actually almost through with this list of 15 hopefully interesting facts about honeybees. Number 13, honeybees communicate with each other through a complex dance known as the waggle dance. That's actually really true, which conveys information about location of food sources, which we just kind of hinted at earlier. So I guess we will talk about that for a little bit. So on the hive, or on the frame inside the hive, when one of the gatherers comes back, she has a source that she wants the other bees to go to. She is using this waggle dance to give them directions. One of the neat things that I learned in the Honeybee Democracy book is that on the frame, up indicates north, down indicates south, left indicates west, and then right indicates east. Obviously, they are not doing compass directions as far as, hey, you can take a left at, or take a left at, this road, whatever. No, they're doing up, down, and left and right, and then of course the in betweens. But anytime they start in their dance, if they kind of jet off in that direction, what they are saying is west, and then they'll travel that for a distance on the frame, and that will indicate, or at the entrance of the hive, they'll do that, because I've seen them doing that dance as well at the entrance of the hive. And each time when she gets to another bee, she'll share some of that resource with them so that they can taste it, so that they'll know what they're looking for. And so it's super fascinating to watch that happen. And they will give them precise directions distance, direction, all of that kind of stuff. Very precise in that waggle dance. It's fascinating how they communicate with each other. All right, and so let's see. We're going to what, number 14, wasn't it? Waggle dance. Yeah, 14. So we are almost through with this, y'all. Honeybees are capable of producing and storing surplus honey, which beekeepers harvest while ensuring the bees have enough to sustain themselves. Absolutely true. Incredibly critical for us as beekeepers that the bees will have enough to get them through fall, depending, like if we have a harsh fall being that we don't have a lot of nectar for them to, or nectar or pollen for them to harvest, then we want to make sure that they have been able to produce enough honey, food resources for them to be able to get through that season, the winter season. Okay, so here as an example, and we've gone over this a few times, but some of y'all might not have seen these videos before. So we have what we call the food and brood chamber. Typically the brood, the majority of the brood, is going to be down here in this lower chamber where the food is stored up here. These two supers, deep supers, are for the bees. So their food and everything that they need to get through the winter is here. We will also go the extra step of providing them either honey that we have left over, or we will provide them nutritious syrup that we've either produced or we've gone out and purchased, whatever. But we make sure that it has enough nutrients. It's not just sugar, but it has enough nutritional value that it's going to help them stay strong throughout the winter. That's all done here. Anything above this queen excluder that you can see the edge of right here. So these two, I kind of feel like a weatherman right now, just pointing at a map behind me. But these two boxes here, these are for us. And if you buy honey from us, then technically they're for you. Although, I promise you, yes, we're going to sell our honey, but I'm going to make sure I got mine first. So anyway, so that's done up there, and each hive has its own setup. And so, you know, you'll like this next one over actually only has one deep for right now. Now that being said, several of our hives are producing more than they are going to need for the winter, so we've actually got enough resources to make sure that this hive will get through winter as well. We always want to make sure that everything we do with them in mind first, then us. And so that's how these setups are done. So that's actually very much true. We never take honey from where, you know, from the bees that they need in order to be able to survive. Okay? And then last but not least, number 15, honeybees are not native to North America, but were brought over by European settlers. They have since become an integral part of the ecosystem and agriculture in Kentucky and beyond. Yeah, that's actually true. Not only are they not native to, this says North America, they are not native to the Americas at all. None of the Apis mellifera are native to this country, or to this region. So they were brought over by Europeans. That's how they got here. Everybody's heard, you know, the most famous of them all, maybe second only to the Italian honeybee, which is the most common, but the Africanized bee, or the killer bee, really it's just an aggressive bee as far as defending its hive. And from the region that particular bee originates, it has to be very aggressively defensive of her hive. So, you know, that's some of that ratings seeking BS that people love to do when they're talking about, you know, they're trying to create the fear. They talk about the killer bee. Really, if you see a hive of bees, if you suspect that there is a bee colony somewhere, if you don't know what you are doing, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to leave it alone. And that's, honestly, it's a stinging insect. So all it really is concerned about, in this particular case, it's hive mind, so it's concerned about the survivability of the hive, the colony. In other insects, it may just be self-preservation. But either way, leave it alone. You know, you're not going to poke a tiger in the butt. So leave the bees alone. But so the Africanized bee originated in Africa. I don't know if you picked up on that from the name or not, but in those regions, there's a lot of stuff that really likes the flavor of honey, and it is far more destructive getting into the hive than, say, a beekeeper. So those bees, over millennia, have developed very strong protective instincts. It's also believed, or I've read, I don't know, I have zero personal experience, firsthand experience with the Africanized bee, but it's believed, or it's stated, that they actually are the most prodigious when it comes to producing honey. That may be true, I don't know. The risk for us is not worth the gain. I like sitting next to this hive in a t-shirt. I like working. We were actually out here earlier today doing some work. I never put my suit on today. And you've seen me in previous videos where I don't tend to put the suit on this time of year because there's no need. They're so gentle. The Africanized colony that's not going to be the same. So, we don't want that. Pets are always at risk, that sort of thing. I mean, we're in an urban area. You got a dog barking over here. Not that I like that. I wish actually sometimes that dog would go inside and leave us alone, as it appears to be doing today. But all of that stuff would be at risk if that particular bee was aggravated. Then all those bees, and what makes them killer bees is so many of them will come out and sting at once. I'll get stung. I think the most I've been stung before is 17 from a single colony, or at least from a single trip to the bee yard. But you can only handle many of those stings, whether you're allergic or not. You can only handle so many of those stings before your body's going to start negatively reacting to that venom. Well, with the Africanized bee, what happens is you get hit by so many of them that it can cause cardiac arrest, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, you're gonna die. But those numbers are really low. So don't pay any attention to the media machine, doing their thing. Anyway, so that's what I got. I thought that was fun. So, hey, chalk one up for AI. I react just hearing the buzz. Yeah, Angie. I have no concern that you're going to see a colony of bees and go, I wonder what this does. That's with you. That is not happening. So that's kind of funny that you say that. Anyway, so I hope y'all enjoyed this. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, like Angie, don't hesitate to share your concerns with me. But I'd love to get some questions from you. You can either, post them as comments to this video, or you can send them to me on Messenger through Facebook. And just let me know what questions you have. I'd love to do a video just addressing that question for you, because this, honestly, it's really peaceful for me. I know that it agitates you, Angie, but for me, I live for this. I mean, I literally have been keeping bees since I was 3, and that was over 4 decades ago now. So I just can't imagine not having the bees in my life. And so, yeah, being out here, even with them flying around my face and stuff, I mean, you can see that it's more of a, please don't get in my mouth, but otherwise, do your thing. I love it. I'm listening to the birds chirp, listening to the bees buzz. Somebody nearby is cutting some grass. Even that's kind of cool, because you get that fresh cut grass smell coming across your nose every now and then. Let's see. So anyway, I'd love to hear your questions or read your questions. I'd love to be able to address them. If you are a beekeeper and you got some questions, please feel free to send those questions to me. Now, what I'll do in that particular case, because you're a beekeeper and you've got a question and you are actually trying to take care of your hive more immediately, I'm going to go ahead and address your question like on the spot. Like I'll get back to you as quickly as I possibly can to be sure that you're able to provide the best care for your bees. I would want that for myself, so I'm going to definitely show you that respect. But I'm also going to address that question just here because, some of the viewers might enjoy learning that particular lesson as well. So yeah, please, whether you're an experienced beekeeper or you're just curious about the bees, I would love to hear from you. So please reach out and let me know, okay? That being said, I'm going to go ahead and pack up. I got to get back to my house and get the grass cut. Thanks, guys. See ya.